The galaxy had known peace for 3,000 years. The Galactic Concord, a union of hundreds of species, had built an empire of trade and diplomacy. Wars were forgotten. Weapons gathered dust in museums. The citizens of 1,000 worlds slept safely, believing nothing could threaten their perfect civilization. But there was one species they never spoke about. One world they pretended did not exist. Earth. The humans lived at the edge of the galaxy, separated from everyone else by an invisible wall of fear. The Concord called it a quarantine zone, but it was really just a way to keep the Deathworlders away. That was what they called humans. Deathworlders. Creatures born on a planet that should have killed them 1,000,000 times over. Earth was a nightmare world. Its gravity crushed bones. Its weather could freeze flesh or burn it to ash. Predators with claws and teeth hunted in every forest. Diseases evolved faster than medicine could cure them. And above it all, a yellow sun poured radiation onto everything below. Any other species would have died. Humans did not die. They adapted. They survived. They became something that terrified the rest of the galaxy. The Concord had met humans once, long ago. They had seen what humans could do when pushed. They had watched human soldiers fight through wounds that would kill any other creature. They had seen human scientists build weapons that made stars look weak. They had witnessed human stubbornness that refused to accept defeat, even when defeat was certain. So they made a deal. Humans would stay on their side of the galaxy. The Concord would stay on theirs. Everyone would be happier this way. For 200 years, this arrangement worked. Humans built their own civilization in the outer darkness. The Concord forgot about them, mostly. Children learned about Deathworlders in school, the way they learned about ancient monsters. Scary stories. Nothing more. Ambassador Karath was not like the others. He was a Veleth, a species of crystalline beings who lived for knowledge. The Veleth did not fight. They did not build weapons. They collected information, stored it, organized it, and shared it with anyone who asked. Their homeworld, Veleth Prime, held the greatest library in the galaxy. Every species sent their histories, their sciences, their art to the Veleth. In return, the Veleth gave wisdom freely to all. Karath had spent 60 years studying humans. He read their literature, watched their broadcasts, analyzed their history. He was one of the few beings in the Concord who understood that humans were not monsters. They were complicated. They could be cruel, yes, but they could also be kind. They could destroy, but they could also create beautiful things. They were capable of great evil and great good, sometimes in the same breath. He had tried to tell the Concord Council this many times. They never listened. Fear was easier than understanding. On the day everything changed, Karath was in his study, reading an old human poem about a soldier who died protecting strangers. He found it beautiful and sad. He wondered if the Concord would ever understand why a human would give their life for someone they did not. No. Then the alarm started. The sound cut through the quiet halls of the great library like a knife. Karath had never heard that alarm before. No one alive had. It was the invasion alarm, installed thousands of years ago when the Concord still remembered what war meant. He rushed to the communication center. Other Veleth were already there, their crystalline bodies flickering with fear. The screen showed something impossible. Ships. Thousands of ships. They were emerging from the empty space between galaxies, from the dark void where nothing should exist. They were black and twisted, covered in spines and weapons. They moved like hungry insects searching for food. The Kethvari. Karath felt his body go cold. The Kethvari were supposed to be extinct. They were parasites, a species that survived by consuming others. They would arrive at a world, strip it of all resources, harvest the population for food and slaves, then move on to the next target. They had destroyed dozens of civilizations before the ancient races finally defeated them, or so everyone thought. They were not defeated. They had been waiting, and now they were back. The Concorde fleet responded quickly, but it was hopeless. Their ships were built for patrol and ceremony, not war. The HFY tore through them like paper. In 3 hours, the defense fleet was gone. In 6 hours, the HFY controlled the space around Velith Prime. Karath watched the Council send emergency messages to every member world. He watched the responses come back, one by one. The Lotharians were too far away. The Menics were assessing the situation. The Draffel expressed deep concern, but did not commit forces at this time. No one was. The HFY dropships began landing on Velith Prime. Reports came in of massacres, of Velith being herded into camps, of the Great Library burning. Everything Karath's people had protected for millennia was being destroyed. He gathered a small group of survivors and fled into the underground tunnels beneath the library. His assistant, a young Velith named Siren, stayed close to him. She had never seen violence before today. Now she had seen too much in the darkness. Karath made a decision. There was an old communication device in the deepest part of the tunnels. It had been installed centuries ago, during the negotiations that created the quarantine. It was designed to send a message across the barrier, directly to Earth. No one had ever used it. No one had ever wanted to. Karath wanted to now. Siren watched him activate the ancient machine. "Ambassador," she whispered, "you cannot. They are Deathworlders. They could be worse than the HFY. They could be," Karath agreed. "Or they could be exactly what the old poems described. Warriors who fight for strangers. Protectors of the weak." He looked at the burning sky through a crack in the ceiling. "We are dying, Siren. No one else will help us. Perhaps it is time to discover what humans really are." He typed the message himself. It was simple because he did not have time for complexity. Coordinates, species identification, and 3 words in the human language he had studied for so long. "Please, help. Dying." He sent it into the void and prayed to whatever gods might be listening. Far across the galaxy, past the quarantine zone, past the warning beacons, past the invisible wall of fear, the signal reached a massive warship called the Unconquered Sun. Admiral Yuki Tanaka was on the bridge when the communication officer called out in surprise. "Admiral, we are receiving a transmission. It is using the old emergency frequency, the one from the Concorde." Tanaka stood. Her heart beat faster. "Show me." The message appeared on the main screen. Coordinates. Species identification. Velith. 3 words. "Please. Help. Dying." The bridge was silent. Everyone knew what this meant. After 200 years of silence, someone in the galaxy was asking humanity for help. Admiral Tanaka stared at the message for a long moment. Then she spoke. "Set a course. Maximum speed. And wake up the fleet." The wolves were awake. The message from the Velith spread through the Terran Unified Command like fire through dry grass. Within hours, every admiral, every general, every politician with clearance knew what had happened. Someone had called for help. After 2 centuries of silence, after being pushed to the edge of the galaxy and told to stay there, someone had finally asked humanity to come. The debate was fierce. Admiral Tanaka stood before the Command Council, her uniform still dusty from the bridge of the Unconquered Sun. She had not slept. She did not plan to sleep until this was decided. "They abandoned us," said Councilman Webb, an old man with bitter eyes. "They called us monsters. They built a wall to keep us out. Why should we bleed for them now?" "Because they are dying," Tanaka said simply. "Not our problem." It will be our problem, eventually. General Marcus Cole stood up from his seat. He was a large man, scarred from battles fought on distant worlds. His voice was rough like gravel. The HFY are back. Anyone here want to pretend they will stop with one planet? One species? They are harvesters. They will eat their way across the galaxy until nothing is left. Including us. We can defend ourselves, Webb argued. Yes, we can. We can sit behind our borders and watch civilization burn. We can wait until the HFY finish with everyone else and come for us with 100 times the ships they have now. Or, Cole leaned forward. Or we can go out there and show the galaxy what Deathworlders really are. The room fell quiet. Tanaka spoke again. They called us monsters because they were afraid. They are still afraid. But right now, someone is more afraid of dying than they are of us. Someone looked at the entire galaxy, found no help, and decided to call the monsters instead. She paused. That takes courage. Or desperation. Either way, they deserve an answer. The vote was close, but it passed. Humanity would answer the call. The Deathworlder Armada began to mobilize. 200 warships, each one a fortress of metal and fire. These were not the gentle patrol vessels of the Concord. These were built for war, designed during the long isolation when humanity prepared for threats that had not yet come. Now, finally, they would be used. The ships had names that would have made the Concord tremble. The Unconquered Sun, the Iron Promise, the Last Argument, the Fury of Terra. Each one carried enough firepower to burn a moon. And the crews who served on them had trained their entire lives for this moment. Tanaka watched the fleet assemble from the observation deck of her flagship. Stars glittered like diamonds against the black velvet of space. Somewhere out there, people were dying. People who had never met a human, who had been taught to fear them, who probably expected monsters if they expected anything at all. She wondered what they would think when the monsters arrived to save them. The journey took 3 days at maximum speed. 3 days of preparation, of planning, of checking weapons and rehearsing tactics. The crews did not complain. They did not ask why they were risking their lives for aliens who had rejected them. They simply prepared because that was what humans did. When there was work to be done, they did it. On Velith Prime, the situation grew worse with every passing hour. The HFY had established complete control of the planet. Their soldiers moved through the cities in disciplined waves, gathering the survivors into camps. The Velith did not resist. They did not know how. Violence was not in their nature. They had trusted the galaxy to protect them, and the galaxy had failed. Karath and his small group of survivors remained hidden in the tunnels beneath the Great Library. They had water from underground streams and food from emergency supplies. It would last perhaps 2 more weeks. After that, they would have to surface, and the HFY would find them. Siren stayed close to the old ambassador. She was young by Velith standards, barely 30 years old. She had never seen death before this week. Now she had seen more than she could process. Her crystalline body, normally bright with inner light, had grown dim with grief. "Ambassador," she said one night, her voice barely a whisper, "do you truly believe they will come? The Deathworlders?" Karath looked at her with old, tired eyes. "I do not know. I hope. Hope is all we have left. But if they come, what then? I have read the reports. They are violent, aggressive. They fight with a fury that makes the HFY look tame. What if we trade one monster for another?" It was a fair question. Karath had asked himself the same thing many times. But he had also read things that the official reports never mentioned. He had read human stories about sacrifice and love, about soldiers who threw themselves on explosives to save their friends, about ordinary people who ran into burning buildings to rescue strangers. He had read about something humans called heroism, a concept that had no direct translation in the Velith language. The Kethvari kill because they hunger, he said finally. It is their nature. They cannot be anything else. But humans... He paused, searching for the right words. Humans choose. They can be cruel, yes, but they can also be kind. They fight for reasons we have never understood. Perhaps today we will learn what those reasons are. Siren did not look convinced, but she said nothing more. Far above them, in the darkness of space, the Kethvari fleet held position around Velith Prime. Warlord Dexor commanded from his flagship, the Devourer. He was pleased with the conquest. The Velith were weak, their world rich with resources. His masters in the Grand Fleet would be satisfied. Then his sensors detected something strange. Ships were approaching. Many ships, moving at speeds that should have been impossible. They were coming from the direction of the quarantine zone, from the empty darkness where nothing was supposed to exist except the exiled. Deathworlders. Thex single quotes. You or felt something unfamiliar. It took him a moment to recognize it. It was uncertainty. Identify those vessels, he commanded. His officers worked quickly. The analysis came back. The ships matched no known design in the Concord database. They were heavily armored, bristling with weapons, built for combat in a way that Concord ships simply were not. They were approaching without fear, without hesitation, flying in perfect formation like predators closing in on prey. A communication came through. A human face appeared on the screen. Female, with dark hair and cold eyes. She spoke in a language Dexor did not understand, but his translators worked quickly. This is Admiral Yuki Tanaka of the Terran Unified Fleet. You have attacked the world under our protection. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. Dexor stared at the image. Then he laughed. Little Deathworlder, he said, his voice thick with contempt. We have consumed empires. We have harvested worlds beyond counting. Your threats mean nothing. Your bones will join the rest. The human female did not seem afraid. She did not seem angry. She simply looked at him the way a predator looks at something it is about to kill. You have 1 minute to comply, she said. I suggest you use it wisely. Dexor ended the communication. He turned to his fleet commanders. Destroy them. All of them. The Kethvari ships moved to attack. They outnumbered the humans 3-1. Victory was certain. At least, that was what Dexor believed. On the bridge of the unconquered sun, Admiral Tanaka watched the enemy fleet approach. Her crew was calm, professional, ready. They had trained for this moment their entire lives. Admiral, her weapons officer said, the enemy is within firing range. Tanaka nodded. All ships, weapons free. Show them what Deathworlders can do. The Terran Armada opened fire. The space around Velith Prime turned into fire. The Kethvari believed they knew war. They had conquered dozens of species, burned hundreds of worlds, harvested billions of souls. They had fought against the ancient races and survived. They believed nothing in the galaxy could match their fury. They were wrong. Human weapons were not like Concord weapons. The Concord built tools for peace, for patrol, for deterrence. Humans built tools for destruction. During their long exile at the edge of the galaxy, they had perfected the art of killing. Their railguns fired projectiles at impossible speeds, punching through Kethvari armor like paper. Their missiles tracked targets with ruthless precision, exploding in cascades of nuclear fire. Their energy weapons cut through shields as if they did not exist, and the humans themselves were worse. Warlord Dexor watched in disbelief as his fleet began to die. His ships were larger, more numerous, more experienced. But the humans fought like nothing he had ever seen. They took damage that would cripple any other vessel and kept fighting. They flew patterns that should have torn their ships apart from the stress. They made decisions so quickly that his commanders could not react in time. 3 HFY destroyers moved to surround a single human cruiser. The Iron Promise. Standard tactics. Overwhelming force. Certain victory. The human ship should have tried to escape or surrender. Instead, it accelerated directly toward the largest destroyer. It crashed through the enemy shields, fired all weapons at point-blank range, and destroyed the destroyer completely. The Iron Promise was badly damaged, burning, venting atmosphere. But it did not retreat. It turned and engaged the second destroyer while damage control teams fought to keep it alive. Dexor had never seen anything like it. His species valued survival above all else. They would never sacrifice a ship willingly. They would never risk destruction for anything. These humans did not seem to care if they lived or died. They only cared about killing the enemy. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it was over, the HFY fleet was broken. 2/3 of their ships were destroyed or disabled. The survivors were running, fleeing into the darkness, desperate to escape the monsters they had awakened. Dexter tried to escape with them. His flagship turned away from the battle, engines at maximum power. He had to warn the Grand Fleet. He had to tell them what they were facing. He never got the chance. The unconquered sun pursued him like a hunting wolf chasing wounded prey. Admiral Tanaka stood on her bridge, watching the enemy flagship grow larger on the screen. Her ship was damaged, bleeding fire and atmosphere from a dozen wounds. She did not care. "Weapons, target their engines," she ordered. "I want that ship disabled, not destroyed. We need prisoners." The railguns fired. The Devourer shuddered as its engines died. It hung in space, helpless, as the human dreadnought approached. Tanaka opened the communication channel. Dexor's face appeared on the screen. He looked different now. The arrogance was gone. In its place was something Tanaka recognized: fear. "This is your only chance," she said. "Surrender now. Your crew will be treated as prisoners of war. You have my word." Dexor stared at her. In his entire existence, no enemy had ever offered mercy. The HFY certainly never did. They consumed everything. They showed no compassion because compassion was weakness. But here was this human, this Deathworlder, offering to spare his life after he had tried to kill her. He did not understand. He was not sure he wanted to. "Why?" he asked. "Why would you show mercy? We are enemies." Tanaka's expression did not change. "Because that is what separates us from you. Now surrender, or I will finish what we started." Dexor surrendered. On the surface of Velith Prime, the Velith survivors did not know what was happening above them. They only knew that the HFY soldiers had suddenly stopped their patrols. They heard explosions in the sky, saw flashes of light through the clouds, felt the ground shake as debris fell from orbit. Then the dropships came. They descended through the smoke like metal birds, human symbols painted on their sides. They landed hard, and soldiers poured out before the engines had even stopped. But these were not HFY soldiers. These were humans. Karath watched from the entrance to the tunnels. He had come to the surface when the fighting started, hoping against hope that his message had been received. Now he stood frozen, watching creatures from nightmare stories stride across the ruins of his world. The humans were terrifying. They were tall, muscular, covered in heavy armor that made them look like walking tanks. They moved with a speed and coordination that seemed impossible. And their faces, visible through their helmet visors, showed no fear, no hesitation, only determination. A squad of HFY soldiers emerged from a nearby building, weapons raised. They fired on the humans. The humans fired back, thought it was over in seconds. The HFY fell, dead, before they hit the ground. The humans did not even slow down. They simply stepped over the bodies and continued their advance. Siren appeared beside Karath, her crystalline body trembling. "Ambassador, what are they?" "They are what we asked for," Karath whispered. "They are the answer." The fighting continued for hours as the humans swept across the planet. They liberated the camps, freed the prisoners, hunted down every HFY soldier who did not surrender. They were efficient, brutal, unstoppable. The HFY had conquered Velith Prime in days. The humans took it back in hours. When the fighting finally stopped, Karath emerged fully from the tunnels. He walked through the ruins of the great library, past the burned books and shattered crystal, toward a group of human soldiers who were setting up a command post. One of them saw him approach. She removed her helmet, revealing a scarred face and tired eyes. Her skin was dark, her hair cut short, and she carried herself like someone who had seen too many battles. "Ambassador Karath?" she asked. Her voice was rough, but not unkind. "Yes," he said. "How do you know my name?" "Your message included your identification. I am Sergeant Rosa Vega, Terran Marines." She held out her hand. Karath had read about this human custom. He extended his own crystalline limb, and she shook it gently. "You came," he said. He could not keep the amazement from his voice. "You actually came." Vega looked around at the devastation, at the bodies, at the smoke still rising from the burning city. "Someone called for help." "That is what we do. But your people were exiled. We rejected you. Why would you risk your lives for us?" Vega was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer. "Because that is the difference between us and them. The HFY kill because they have to. We fight because we choose to. We choose to protect people who cannot protect themselves. Even people who do not like us. Even people who call us monsters." She looked directly at Karath. "Do you understand now, Ambassador? This is what humans are. We are not monsters. We are the thing that monsters are afraid of." Karath felt something warm spread through his ancient body. For the first time in days, he did not feel afraid. He felt something else, something he had never expected. He felt hope, but in the darkness between stars, something was moving. The Grand Harvester fleet, 2,000 ships strong, had received Deathworlder's final transmission before his capture. They knew what had happened at Velith Prime. They knew about the humans, and they were coming. The combined fleet gathered at the edge of the Velith system. It was the largest military force the galaxy had ever assembled. Ships from 100 species flew in formation, their different designs creating a strange and beautiful pattern against the stars. At the center of this armada, human dreadnoughts led the way, their dark hulls bristling with weapons. Admiral Yuki Tanaka stood on the bridge of the Unconquered Sun and surveyed the fleet on her tactical display. The numbers were impressive. Over 600 Concord vessels had joined the human armada, bringing their total strength to nearly 800 ships. It was still not enough. The HFY Grand Fleet numbered over 2,000. They were coming fast, hungry for revenge after their defeat at Velith Prime. Warlord Deathworlder, father of the captured Deathworlder and commander of the entire HFY Dominion, led them personally. He was ancient, ruthless, and determined to show the galaxy what happened to those who defied the Harvesters. General Cole stood beside Tanaka, studying the same display. 3-to-1 odds, he said quietly. "I have faced worse." "When?" Tanaka asked. Cole smiled grimly. "I will let you know if I remember." The Concord forces were positioned on the flanks, their ships less powerful but numerous enough to matter. The Velith had contributed what remained of their fleet, mostly support vessels, but armed with the best weapons humans could provide. They would protect the civilian evacuation routes, giving refugees a chance to escape if the battle went badly. Tanaka opened a channel to all ships. Her face appeared on screens across the fleet, human and alien alike. This is Admiral Tanaka. In a few hours, we will face the largest enemy force this galaxy has seen in 3,000 years. Some of you came here because you believe in our cause. Some came because you had no choice. Some came because you are afraid of what happens if we fail. She paused. I want you to know that I understand. I'm afraid too. Fear is natural. Fear keeps us sharp, keeps us alive. But fear does not have to control us. Today, we choose to be more than our fear. Today, we stand together, different species with different histories, united by one simple truth. We will not let innocents die while we have the strength to protect them. She looked directly into the camera. The enemy thinks we are weak. They think we will break. They think our alliance is fragile, held together by desperation. Let us show them how wrong they are. Let us show them what happens when free people stand together against tyranny. Let us show them that there are things in this galaxy worth dying for. Her voice hardened. All ships, prepare for combat. Today, we make our stand. The communication ended. Across the fleet, crews moved to battle stations. Weapons powered up. Shields activated. Pilots climbed into fighters. Soldiers checked their weapons and said goodbye to friends they might never see again. The Kethvari Grand Fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. They filled the sensor screens like a dark cloud. 2,000 ships moving in perfect formation. At their center flew the Endless Hunger, Deathworlder's flagship, a massive vessel that dwarfed even the human dreadnoughts. Deathworlder opened the communication channel. His face appeared on screens throughout the Allied fleet. He was old, his carapace cracked with age, but his eyes burned with cold fury. You cannot win, he said simply. You are outnumbered, outmatched, outclassed. Surrender now, and I will make your deaths quick. Resist, and I will feed your worlds to my fleet one by one until nothing remains. Tanaka's response was immediate. We received your message. Our answer is no. Come and take us if you can. The channel closed. The battle began. It was chaos from the first moment. Ships fired in all directions, missiles streaking through space, energy beams cutting through the darkness. The Kethvari attacked in waves, trying to overwhelm the Allied line through sheer numbers. The human dreadnoughts absorbed the worst of it, their heavy armor taking punishment that would have destroyed any Concord vessel. The unconquered sun fought at the heart of the battle. Tanaka commanded from her bridge, directing fire, coordinating movements, refusing to give ground. Her ship was hit again and again, fires breaking out on multiple decks, systems failing, crew members dying. She kept fighting. Admiral, her first officer, reported, hull integrity at 40%, engines damaged, weapons at 60% capacity. Keep firing, Tanaka ordered. We hold this line. Hours passed. The battle spread across 3-star systems as ships chased each other through the void. The Allied forces took heavy losses, but they did not break. Every time the Kethvari thought they had found a weakness, the humans plugged the gap. Every time a Concord ship faltered, human vessels moved to protect it. The Draffel carrier Wisdom of Ages took critical damage while evacuating wounded. A swarm of Kethvari destroyers moved in for the kill. The human cruiser Iron Promise, already wounded from earlier fighting, threw itself between them. It destroyed 3 destroyers before its reactor finally failed. There were no survivors. The Lotharian flagship, Eternal Light, lost its shields and prepared to be destroyed. The human destroyer Last Stand positioned itself to absorb the incoming fire. Its captain, a young woman named Sarah Chun, broadcast a final message to her crew. It has been an honor. The last stand held for 7 minutes before it finally broke apart. Those 7 minutes were enough for the Eternal Light to restore its shields and rejoin the battle. Across the galaxy, species that had never met humans watched the battle unfold on their screens. They saw human ships sacrifice themselves to protect aliens who had called them monsters. They saw human soldiers fight with a fury that made the HFY look timid. They saw something they had never expected from Deathworlders. They saw heroes. On the unconquered sun, Tanaka received word that the flagship was crippled beyond repair. Engines dead, weapons failing, life support barely functioning. She ordered the crew to evacuate while she stayed at the helm, keeping whatever systems still worked firing at the enemy. "Admiral," her weapons officer said, "you should go with them." Tanaka did not look away from her screen. "Someone has to keep shooting. Go." "That is an order." The crew evacuated. Tanaka stayed. She fired every weapon she had left until there was nothing left to fire. Then she sat in her command chair, watching the battle continue around her, and waited. The HFY did not bother to destroy the crippled dreadnought. They had bigger targets. That mistake would cost them. Sergeant Rosa Vega led her squad through the corridors of the Endless Hunger. They had boarded during the chaos, cutting through the hull with breaching charges and fighting their way inside. Their mission was simple: kill Exul and break the enemy command structure. The fighting inside the flagship was brutal. HFY soldiers filled every corridor, every room, every junction. Vega lost half her squad in the first 10 minutes. She kept going. The survivors kept going. They had come too far to stop now. They reached the command center after 2 hours of constant combat. Vega was bleeding from wounds she had stopped counting. Her armor was cracked. Her ammunition was almost gone. But she was still standing. Exul waited for them. He was massive, 3 times the size of any soldier they had faced. His body was covered in ancient armor, his claws long enough to cut through steel. He looked at the handful of wounded humans who had fought their way to his door, and he laughed. "This is what the galaxy sent against me? A few broken Deathworlders?" Vega raised a weapon. "We are enough." The fight was short. Exul was old and powerful, but Vega and her squad were desperate and fearless. They attacked from all sides, taking wounds that would have killed any other species, refusing to fall. One by one, they died, but they did not stop. In the end, only Vega was left. She stood before the ancient warlord, her weapon empty, her body failing. Exul loomed over her, ready to deliver the killing blow. "You fought well," he admitted, "for a Deathworlder, but it was pointless. You cannot stop the hunger." Vega smiled. Blood ran down her face. Her hand moved to a switch on her armor. "I do not have to stop it," she said. "I just have to stop you." She activated the reactor overload. The Endless Hunger exploded in a ball of nuclear fire. The blast wave rippled through the HFY fleet, destroying dozens of ships and damaging hundreds more. The command structure collapsed. Orders stopped coming. The HFY, suddenly leaderless, fell into confusion. The Allied forces surged forward. The battle that had seemed hopeless turned in an instant. Without coordination, without leadership, the HFY fleet became a scattered mob. They fled in all directions, abandoning the fight, desperate to escape the Deathworlders who had killed their god. The war was over. In the aftermath, the galaxy rebuilt. The Galactic Concord was reformed, but now it included humanity as a founding member. The quarantine was formally ended. Human ships patrolled alongside Concord vessels. Human engineers helped rebuild destroyed worlds. Human soldiers trained Concord forces in the arts of war they had forgotten. On Velith Prime, a memorial was built in the ruins of the Great Library. At its center stood a statue of Sergeant Rosa Vega, carved from the same crystal as the Velith themselves. She stood with her weapon raised, her face determined, her eyes looking toward the stars. An eternal flame burned at her feet. Siren, now, an ambassador herself, visited the memorial every year on the anniversary of the battle. She told Vega's story to anyone who would listen. The news of what happened at Velith Prime spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Every species, every world, every government learned the truth within days. The Kethvari had returned. The Concord fleet had failed, and the Deathworlders had answered a call for help. The reaction was chaos. The Galactic Concord Council met in emergency session on their capital world. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the great chamber, their voices creating a storm of argument and fear. Some demanded that humanity be thanked and then sent back to their exile. Others wanted to pretend nothing had happened. A few brave voices suggested what everyone else considered unthinkable: alliance. They saved the Velith, said Representative Kor of the Draffel, a species of tall, thin beings known for their logic. They asked nothing in return. Perhaps we judged them too harshly. They are Deathworlders, snapped Ambassador Thrall of the Menex, a species that resembled floating clouds of gas. They are violent, unpredictable, dangerous. Today they helped us. Tomorrow they might decide to conquer us. The Kethvari are definitely trying to conquer us, Kor replied. That is not a maybe. That is happening right now. The humans might be dangerous, but at least they are willing to fight. The argument continued for hours. Meanwhile, humanity did not wait for permission. Admiral Tanaka broadcast a message to every world in the Concord. She did not ask for approval. She did not request a meeting. She simply stated the facts. The Kethvari Grand Fleet is coming. Our intelligence suggests over 2,000 ships. They will not stop at Velith Prime. They will consume every world in their path until nothing remains. You can hide in your debates and your fear, or you can stand with us and fight. We are going to war either way. The choice is yours. The broadcast ended. The Concord chamber fell silent. Then, one by one, species began to respond. The Velith were first, of course. They had nothing left to lose and everything to gain. Ambassador Karath himself addressed the council, his ancient voice strong despite his exhaustion. I called the Deathworlders, he said. I expected monsters. I found protectors. I have watched them fight and bleed and die for people they had never met. I have seen them show mercy to enemies who deserve none. Whatever you believe about humanity, I have witnessed the truth. They are not our enemies. They may be our only hope. His words carried weight. The Velith were respected throughout the Concord as keepers of knowledge, as seekers of truth. If Karath believed the humans could be trusted, perhaps they could. More species joined. The Draffel committed their fleet. The Lotharians, despite their distance, began sending ships. Even some of the Menex, traditionally the most cautious species in the Concord, voted to contribute forces. The quarantine that had separated humanity from the galaxy for 200 years began to collapse. On Velith Prime, reconstruction had begun. Human engineers worked alongside Velith builders, repairing what could be saved, clearing what could not. The Great Library was mostly destroyed, but teams were already recovering data from backup systems hidden deep underground. Centuries of knowledge had been lost, but not all of it. There was still hope. Sergeant Rosa Vega found herself assigned to protect Ambassador Karath. It was an honor she had not expected. She was a soldier, not a diplomat. But the old Velith had specifically requested her, and command had agreed. She did not understand why until Siren explained. You were the first human he met after the rescue, the young Velith said. They were walking through the ruins of the library, stepping carefully over broken crystal. He says you represent what humanity really is. He wants to show the galaxy that humans are more than weapons. Vega was not sure how to respond to that. She had spent her entire career being exactly what the galaxy feared. A killer, a Deathworlder, a monster in armor. She had never thought of herself as anything else. "I am just a soldier," she said finally. "I do what I'm trained to do. And what is that?" Vega thought about it. Protect people who cannot protect themselves. Stop those who would hurt others. Fight so that others do not have to. Siren's crystalline body flickered with inner light. "That does not sound like a monster to me." They walked in silence for a while. Siren had many questions, and Vega answered them as best she could. Yes, Earth really had predators with claws and teeth. Yes, humans really did survive diseases that killed other species. Yes, the gravity on their world was strong enough to crush Velith bones. And yes, despite all of this, humans still found time for music and art and love. "I do not understand," Siren admitted. "Your world tried to kill you every day. Your sun bombarded you with radiation. Everything around you was dangerous. How did you survive? How did you become?" This, Vega smiled slightly. It was not a happy smile. "We survived because we refused to die. Because when something tried to kill us, we killed it back. Because we learned that the only way to survive a hostile universe was to be more hostile than the universe itself." She paused, looking up at the sky where human ships still patrolled, watching for Kethvari remnants. "But we also learned something else. We learned that survival alone is not enough. That there has to be something worth surviving for. Family, friends, home, people we love, things we believe in." She looked at Siren. "That is why we came when your ambassador called. Because somewhere along the way, we decided that protecting the innocent was worth dying for. Even if the innocent think we are monsters." Siren was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "I do not think you are monsters anymore." "Good," Vega said. "Hold on to that thought. Things are about to get much worse." She was right. General Marcus Cole arrived on Velith Prime 3 days later with grim news. Human intelligence had confirmed the worst. The Grand Harvester fleet was mobilizing. 2,000 ships, maybe more. They would arrive in less than a month. "We cannot win alone," Cole told Karath in a private meeting. "Our fleet is strong, but not strong enough. We need the Concord to fight alongside us. Really fight, not just send a few ships and hope for the best." "They are afraid," Karath said. "They've been afraid for so long, they have forgotten how to be brave. Then remind them." Cole leaned forward. "You are respected, Ambassador. You have seen what we can do. Go to the Council. Tell them what you told me. Make them understand that this is not about humans or Velith or any single species. This is about survival. If we do not stand together, we will fall apart." Karath was old. He was tired. He had already done more than anyone could have expected. But he looked at Cole, at this human who had crossed the galaxy to save strangers, and he found strength he did not know he had. "I will speak to them," he said. "I will make them listen." The journey to the Concord capital took 2 days. Karath spent most of it preparing his speech. He knew that words alone might not be enough. But he also knew that sometimes words were all you had. The council chamber was full when he arrived. Every species, every representative, every leader who still believed the Concord mattered. They watched in silence as the old Velith ambassador walked to the speaking platform, his crystalline body dim but his eyes still bright. He did not speak right away. He let the silence build, let the tension grow. Then he began. "For 3,000 years, you called them Deathworlders, monsters, aberrations, things to be feared and avoided. I called them that too. I believed, as you believe, that they were dangerous beyond measure." He paused. "I was wrong." The chamber stirred. Karath continued, I have seen what they truly are. I have watched them fight and bleed and die for people they never knew. I have seen them show mercy to enemies who offered none. I have seen them build and heal and protect. They are not perfect. They are capable of great violence. But they are also capable of something we have forgotten, something we lost in our 3,000 years of peace. He raised his voice. They are capable of courage. They are capable of sacrifice. They are capable of looking at impossible odds and saying, we will fight anyway. And right now, they are the only thing standing between this galaxy and destruction. He looked across the chamber at faces full of doubt and fear. I did not come here to convince you that humans are good or safe or harmless. I came here to tell you that they are necessary. The Kethvari are coming. You know this. You have seen the reports. You know what they will do to every world they reach. And you know, deep in your hearts, that you cannot stop them alone. His voice dropped to almost a whisper. But together, we might survive. Together, with the Deathworlders fighting beside us, we might have a chance. That is all I am asking for. A chance. Will you take it? The silence stretched. Then, slowly, the Draffel representative stood. We will fight, she said. Another stood. And we, then another, and another, until the entire chamber was on its feet. Voices joined together in something that sounded almost like hope. The galaxy was going to war.